Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to a late Monday night edition of NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. We have Hell in a Cell this coming Sunday. NoDQ.com predictions video will be going up on Tuesday. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Got your questions, so let's get started today with the first one, which comes from Brett. It sucks to be Goldberg. Didn't Lesnar represent Canada at his UFC fight? Plus, Goldberg did pretty much end Bret Hart's career. I have gotten a lot of questions about Survivor Series and the reaction from the fans in Toronto. How will they react to Goldberg? People have been asking me that for over a week now. I'm not sure. I mean, I did not think it was a good sign the way the fans in Minneapolis reacted to Goldberg. Now, yes, that is Brock Lesnar's hometown and his home state of Minnesota, but Brock Lesnar also lives in Canada now, and he did, in fact, represent Canada during his last UFC fight. The other big negative, of course, as you mentioned, is Bret Hart's career being ended by Goldberg, and I said this on Twitter, the Canadian fans do not forget. So yeah, I would be concerned about how the crowd is going to react to Goldberg. Clearly from that segment on Raw, it was intended for the fans to chant Goldberg. Paul Heyman was trying to get the fans to chant Goldberg, and instead they chanted Suplex City and then chanted Goldberg sucks. I think the crowd is going to definitely play a role in how this rematch is remembered. If the fans crap on it, a lot of people might see Goldberg's return as being a flop. I mean, I'm sure WWE is going to try and do everything to avoid this rematch from being considered a flop like the first one. But the crowd is going to definitely play a role in it. If they reject Goldberg, I mean, that's not going to make Goldberg look very good. Let's face it. I mean, that could definitely hurt the match in a major way. So we'll see what happens, but I have to say right now it's not looking good for Goldberg based off of this week's crowd reaction, because not only do you have the whole Brock Lesnar hometown, home country thing, but you also have the whole Bret Hart situation, and the Toronto fans never really liked Goldberg. I mean, in WCW, even at the Mayhem pay-per-view when Goldberg fought Sid Vicious, they booed Goldberg. So Goldberg and Canada haven't worked well together. Got this one here from Paul Bessman. If you could go back to 98, how would you have booked Goldberg's streak in WCW, and who would end it and when? I would have had a rising star end Goldberg's streak. You would have, in an ideal situation, have a new star get over by ending Goldberg's streak, and you build a new superstar, and his claim to fame is ending Goldberg's streak. Not having the older guy who's also happening to be the booker beat Goldberg's streak. I would not have done that. I would not have gone with Hogan. Most of those guys, from Piper to Scott Hall to Sting, none of them should have been beating Goldberg. DDP lost to Goldberg, which was the right thing for business, and I think Nash should have lost to Goldberg. Some might say maybe Scott Steiner, if WCW played their cards right, and how they booked Steiner in late 2000, if they had done that in 98 when WCW was still hot, maybe you could have made an argument for Steiner beating Goldberg, and you made Scott Steiner a monster heel champion. That might have worked. But beyond that, I would have just built a completely fresh new star. Maybe even had Jericho do it. But WCW would have needed to really take Jericho seriously and build him up, or even a Chris Benoit. But these guys would have had to been pushed really strong, and the way they were booked in WCW, it wouldn't have been credible for either guy to beat Goldberg, because neither guy was portrayed as anything special. This one comes from the Outcasted Kid page. If Brian Kendrick were to win the title and then have a good run, could you see them bringing back Paul London to stop him? I'm not so sure because, first of all, I'm not really sure about how Paul London feels about WWE at this stage of the game. Last I heard, he was pretty negative towards the company. And I think if WWE was going to bring back Paul London for something, they would have done it several months ago when the New Day was on the verge of beating London and Kendrick's record. You could have brought back London and Kendrick together as a tag team to try and stop the New Day. And the fact that that did not happen leads me to think Paul London is not somebody who is on good terms with WWE right now. And last I heard, London is still doing indie wrestling, but he's been pretty inactive. I mean, his name doesn't pop up a whole lot. And I suppose it's possible if Kendrick wins, and I'm not really sure what WWE was doing on Raw this week, having London lose the match when he's the #1 contender to Rich Swann, and then you have Kendrick basically begging TJ Perkins to take a dive and let Kendrick win the match. Really weird build-up for that pay-per-view. So, I mean, but to answer your question, I think the odds are against it. I mean, I guess you cannot rule it out, but one would think if Kendrick wins, they're going to do Kendrick versus Rich Swann for the Cruiserweight title. Either way, Swann's going to be the next guy in line. I doubt it's going to be Paul London. This one comes from Chris Strandell. Hey Aaron, if and when WWE signs James Ellsworth to a full-time gig, can you see him going to Raw and joining the Cruiserweight division? That's interesting. I mean, the thing about James Ellsworth is, as much as I'm enjoying what WWE is doing right now, I think it's going to have a shelf life, and I think there's only going to be a certain amount of time that this Ellsworth thing is going to really work. And I think after a while, people will get tired of it. To me, it's a novelty gimmick. And I'm not sure if putting him in the Cruiserweight division will really work out. I mean, Ellsworth is over right now as a comedy character. They're doing comedy in the main event. And, you know, I don't know if people will take him seriously in any division. You know, it's basically clear in the storyline he's just some geek, and, you know, Dean Ambrose is screwing with AJ Styles. But I don't know. I mean, some people are trying to say James Ellsworth might be the new 1-2-3 Kid. Not sure if I agree with that. I'm not sure if that's going to work out for Ellsworth. I mean, I hope he gets some mileage out of this, and, you know, he's got a t-shirt that's selling really well, so maybe they will make something work with him. I mean, I have my doubts, though. I'll just leave it at that. This one comes from Joshua. Hey, Aaron, do you think WWE should have waited until next year to do Sasha Banks versus Bayley in Hell in a Cell? I think WWE made the right decision to do the Hell in a Cell match this year with Sasha Banks versus Charlotte. I think now was the time, even though I wasn't a big fan of the segment on Raw. I think Foley did a good job, but I think the promo was not very well written, and I think Sasha and Charlotte just did not deliver it the way they should have. But I still think it was the right decision to do this match for Sunday, and I still think it should be the match that closes the show. That's my opinion. But yeah, it would be cool to see Sasha versus Bayley. Like, I'm sure eventually they are going to feud, and it would be cool to see a storyline that organically leads up to a Hell in a Cell match between the two of them, where that's the final match to settle their score once and for all. You know, do something like maybe in June you have WrestleMania, Bayley wins the title, you can have it go back and forth, and then like in June you do a blow-off match where it's Hell in a Cell to finally settle the score. So that I would like to see. But I do not think they needed to wait on doing Sasha versus Bayley in Hell in a Cell instead of doing Sasha versus Charlotte. If that's exactly what you're asking. I'm not exactly sure what you meant with this question, but that's what I'm assuming at least. All right, moving on here. Got this question next from Darnell Thomas. Which two active wrestlers would you like to see in a 3 Stages of Hell match? And what matches would you like to see? Please answer in video. PAIV1 is the hashtag. So you can use that hashtag if I have never answered one of your questions. I'm trying to answer as many questions from as many different people as possible, hence that hashtag. Now, regarding the question about a 3 Stages of Hell match, I think I would like to see AJ Styles versus Dean Ambrose in one. I think that would be a solid way to end their feud and settle things once and for all between the two of them. As far as the 3 types of matches, I think I would like to see a submission match where they're exchanging submissions and it's very technical in the ring. And then the second match can be a Falls Count Anywhere match where it's based off of pinfalls and you're trying to get the pinfall and it can be anywhere in the building. And then the third match I would have be a ladder match. That way you're not having pinfalls or submissions, but the objective is to climb the ladder and get the belt. So you have something different for each fall that is different from the other 2 falls. That's what I would do, at least, if I was going to book a 3 Stages of Hell match. And I would do it between those 2. Got this one here from Mary. Hey Aaron, do you think the women's Hell in a Cell match will be the match of the year? Hashtag PAIV1. PAIV, keep up the good work. I hope so. I mean, this is the pay-per-view where the women's match should really be the final match, and time will tell if WWE goes with Charlotte and Sasha Banks as the final match. I mean, I think WWE will likely make a decision at the very last minute, which is why Mick Foley had to recently retract the statement he made where he said that Sasha and Charlotte would be the main event. Should it be? Absolutely. And I think it will depend also if that match is going to be a match of the year contender on what they are allowed to do. The thing about this pay-per-view with 3 Hell in a Cell matches is you have to have something good for each match. So I'm guessing one match will have the spots built around the steel steps, you know, the usual stuff, and then another match will have a couple of table spots, and then the third match maybe will go outside and maybe even on top of the cell. So it's a matter of having each match be different from the other 2 and have something special to it. Now, will Sasha and Charlotte be given enough innovative things to do in this match for it to really stand out from the other 2? I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful they will let Charlotte and Sasha Banks go all out and have a violent, brutal match and just really do something we have never seen in WWE before. But will it happen? I'm not so sure. You know, for all I know, they might end up just doing a couple of bumps on the steel steps, and that's it, and that's all they do, and maybe throw each other into the cage 1 or 2 times, and that's it. So we'll see what happens on Sunday if they are given the opportunity to have a match of the year contender. If they're given the opportunity, I think they can pull it off. This one comes from Joseph Allen. Do you think that any match can top WrestleMania 25 Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker? Well, I honestly feel that Steve Austin and Bret Hart from WrestleMania 13 was an overall better match and a more significant match in history. And I might even say the first Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and Undertaker was a bigger match. Now, in terms of just delivering at WrestleMania a one-on-one match with no stipulation, no gimmicks, that match will be very difficult to top because you had the star power of Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. You had the streak on the line, which is huge. So in order for a match to top that in the future, you are going to not only need the quality, but also you are going to need the star power and the right circumstances and something major being on the line where you have people on the edge of their seats. And with the streak, it's unlikely we will see something top that. I mean, it got to the point where the streak was a bigger deal to people than the world title. So it would really take a lot, the right participants, and just, again, having a match that is as close to perfect as possible. So you have to have all those factors. This one comes from Dylan Donald. About what you said about Bo Dallas, the fact he's so young, do you think he should go away for a few years, then come back better? Well, I think that would be up to him. I mean, he's making money in WWE, not main event money or anything like that. I mean, we've seen it with guys in the past. I mean, we saw what happened with Luke Gallows leaving WWE and going to Japan for a while and then coming back. We've seen it with several guys over the years where they leave and then eventually come back. We saw Albert do the same thing when he left and then came back as Tensai. Now, the Tensai gimmick did not really catch on, but maybe it would be good for somebody like Bo Dallas to leave for a while and then come back and be able to be a fresh face. I mean, the problem also is that fans might still heckle you when you come back. I mean, we saw when Albert came back as Tensai, people were chanting Albert at him, and even with Bray Wyatt, he got the Husky Harris chants. But yeah, that is part of the problem, the fact that people see Bo Dallas at a certain level, and him leaving for a few years could very well help him, but it's also taking a risk because you're giving up your spot in WWE, and it's not always easy to get that spot back. This next one comes from Chris. Do you think WWE needs to make Goldberg and Brock Lesnar a street fight to give a reason a man near 50 can beat a UFC fighter? Hashtag please answer in video. PAIV1. I think that it would be good to make that match no holds barred. I think that by doing that, you give the two of them more freedom to just go all out. And it's a gimmick. And I think it would decrease the chances of the fans crapping on the match because you can take the shortcuts with the weapons. You can have them brawl on the outside and use the announce table, use the monitor, use the steel steps, use chairs, weapons, whatever. And that alone will make the match more exciting and less likely that the fans will turn on it. If you have the two of them in there just doing a regular match, then you do take that risk that the fans might get bored with it and they might turn on it. So I think that that's a great idea to make it a no-holds-barred match and let them use the weapons and brawl in the crowd and do all that stuff. This one comes from M. Was Nikki Bella originally supposed to beat AJ Lee's record or lose it to Charlotte when she came up from NXT? With the hashtag PAIV1. So I'm trying to get in all these first-time askers that have been wanting me to answer a question for a while. Now, to answer the question, I don't believe so. You have to keep in mind that AJ was still with the company when Nikki won the title, and I think it wasn't until around the time that AJ left, around WrestleMania 31, that the decision was made, since Nikki was already champion for a good 6 months at that point, maybe even longer, I'm not sure exactly, but she was already halfway there to beating AJ's records. I believe it was around the time of WrestleMania 31 that there was a decision made for her to beat the record. I mean, certainly by the summer, they were going to go with that. They were going to go with Nikki beating AJ Lee's record just so they could do it, because they were frustrated with the whole CM Punk thing. You know, it's something very petty to be upset about, but that's WWE for you. This one comes from Durka. Hey Aaron, why didn't WCW ever have any events at Madison Square Garden? That is because WWE had an exclusive deal with MSG, and they had a very long-lasting relationship with Madison Square Garden going back decades. And I think WCW did try. I think they tried to get into MSG, but it didn't work. You know, MSG and WWE had this relationship, and in the end, WCW ended up running at the Nassau Coliseum, and you know that was really the closest they could get to running MSG. But yeah, it was WWE and MSG having a deal together, and you know, even though WWE business was on the decline around that period, that WCW was red hot, you know, WWE was able to keep that exclusive relationship with MSG. This one comes from, RPA. Hey Aaron, first time asker. How would you book Bray Wyatt after his unsmokable feud with Randy Orton? I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think he should turn babyface. I think that It's something that's long overdue. It should have gone through earlier this year, but then Bray got hurt and the company just brought him back as a heel. I think as a full-fledged babyface, that would be a reset for Bray Wyatt's character, and you can build him up again as something special, as he should be. I mean, he's one of the most unique characters in the company, but they've really done nothing with him as a heel, and it's been hard to take him seriously as a heel. So I think the most logical thing to do is turn him and see where that can go. That seems to be the next logical step, is a Bray Wyatt babyface turn. So I would definitely go in that direction, have Luke Harper turn on him, and have those two feud. That'll do it for this edition of No DQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Hell in the Cell, I should say. I always call it Hell in the Cell for some reason. Hell in a Cell is this Sunday on the WWE Network. NoDQ.com will have you covered. I will be doing the live results on NoDQ.com, the detailed results. I will also be tweeting, twitter.com/NoDQ.com. Subscribe to this channel. Check out my personal channel at Aaron Rift on YouTube. You can check out my live reaction to The Walking Dead Season 7 premiere, complete with all the people angry about me spoiling it. People should know me by now. People should know that, I cover wrestling as it happens, and I'm branching out into other things. So once it airs on television, as far as I'm concerned, it's fair game to cover it and discuss the events of it, and use the title as a way to generate hits. I mean, I admit it. It's a technique to get people to watch the video by using the thumbnail, using the header, and this is a warning to the people that might not be able to watch Hell in the Cell on Sunday night. You have to keep in mind also that NoDQ.com is a US-based website targeting a US audience, and that is the focus, to try and get as many people watching the videos as possible. So that is how I'm doing business here. I apologize to people that get spoiled because they're unable to stay off of social media. That's just the way it is, and that's how I do business. Hopefully people will understand that, and I can be very clear here that this is what I'm doing, and hopefully not too many people get upset on Sunday when I do what I've been doing for many years now. So that'll wrap it up, and I will see you guys next time for more No DQ&A video.